United Auto Workers go on strike. How bad can it get? Hello, this is Chart GPT today. So the UAW, United Auto Workers in America, go on strike. So let's get into some of the details of what's going on here. So first off, here's a chart, kind of a global, in Western economies, what's going on in terms of historical worker action. You can see that it was pretty heavy in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and has declined quite a bit and had been pretty much non-existent in terms of action. You can see here the UK was really big. And of course, Margaret Thatcher had something to do with that. The French are still probably the only ones that actually do any worker action, and of course in the UAE it's pretty much non-existent. In the US itself, only 10% of employees are in a union, and of those 10%, 34% are out of the public sector, and union represents 34%, and then 6% is union employees in the private sector. So pretty much unions are non-existent. People's opinions of union activities has pretty been consistent, neither here nor there, around the 60 to 70%. It's stayed pretty constant. Recently it's kind of come up a little bit, so that's interesting there. In terms of actual worker actions here's the number of employees involved in work stoppage. There was some issues there in 2019-ish, but for the most part it's come in a steady decline, as we saw in that earlier chart. Of course, here's the largest strikes that happened in America, and most of them have been pretty small since quite a few decades here. The last one was a railroad in one of the early ones in 1920. You have the steel workers, coal miners, and AT&T, and more steel workers. So these are some of the big ones. More recently, here's a history of UAW and GM. The last big one was 49,000 people, and in 2019 that shows that little blip. So now they're back at it here. In terms of what they want, the United Workers are seeking a 46% pay rise. Now, of course, this is over 4 years, so you got to keep that in mind. However, the biggie there is a 32-hour work week with 40 hours of pay. Ooh, that's almost a 20% increase from the get-go throughout the 4 years. And restoration of traditional pensions, so some pension issues in there. So there's a pretty big hike there. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes. But what the UAW has decided to do is, at least for now, what they call a targeted against several of the manufacturers. There's like 3 assembly plants that they're targeting. One in Missouri, you can see there, Ohio, and in Michigan. So this is what they're targeting. It's only about 13,000. So the question is, what this action, of course, it could grow depending on how they manage their outages. It probably is a fairly insignificant thing. Here's assuming a 10-day loss of production in the 3 automakers total. If all of them would strike, this is kind of what they're doing. They're suggesting that maybe $5 billion would be lost. So it's not huge. Maybe shave off 0.2, 0.3% of GDP. So even if they all go on strike, it'll be probably fairly mild to the economy, though some people think it has a bleed-on effect. So there's a belief system out there that labor actions have built the middle class, which I think there's a lot of people would debate that. Here's a very often cited chart and showing you how union membership has declined, wealth inequality has risen, saying that without the unions you're not going to get a fair shake, supposedly. So that's interesting. We asked the AI, does the union activity, labor activity, help in terms of wealth inequality? Kind of mixed reaction there. So interesting read there. You can go to the description box and the post link to see that. And take our online poll. Will the UAW action to try to get more pay, will they get even a large percentage of what they asked for or not? And how that relates to the inflation factor. So we'll see where this goes. An interesting story to watch. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe.